I think it's ruined it if you let it. You know what I'm saying? It depends on how much validity you want to put in it. But
Exactly.
but then another question is too is in relationships, are people's standards too high? Like, do we, you know,
Ooh,
do we have realistic standards in
ooh.
in this dating space, or have you, or what you've seen? You know what I'm saying?
And Al, I
Exactly.
want
Wait
I
a minute,
want to just
wait a minute, D. Wait a minute, D. I want to hear from Jasmine on this one.
copy that.
So, I mean, this is a question I've asked myself. Like, I'm 33 years old, and I'm like, I know my standards too high. I just don't like that statement because I think that people are allowed to want what they want, right? If your standards are, coming from a woman's perspective, there's a whole conversation around like a man should pay for everything, right? So if you want that, I'm sure there is a man somewhere who will do that. But I just think that what you want, there's somebody who is going to give you what you want. I just don't like the statement of your standards are too high. It's just you're asking the wrong person. I I don't know. I want to hear you guys' perspective. I want to hear the man's side because I don't like that statement. There's somebody for everybody. It just doesn't have to be if you want somebody and that person is not interested in funding your lifestyle, then that's not the person for you. Does that make sense? That's kind of what I'm.
Makes sense. That
So
makes
I
sense.
would
And
you kind. Oh, I was about to say you kind of touched on where I was gonna go with it. Where I feel like this generation, because of social media, I have to bring that back into it. People think like somebody's supposed to come perfect, right? Like got everything together, and we're not going like hard cut off if as if we're not humans, right? I don't think there is the same grace that it used to be. And when I say grace, I'm not saying you playing with somebody's emotions and feelings. When I'm saying grace is like, hey, I made an honest mistake where, I raised my voice a few times. Regular human being, you know, relationship things that you could work on. The part of people's standards, I feel like social media has brainwashed people into thinking a standard is I got to be driving a 2026 Beamer. I got 2, 3 houses. Like you said, I'm funding everything. I'm paying for it. Oh, that's not real. Like that's not building genuine. I'm now building based off materialistic things, and that's not true love. Like that's not
exactly.
true building with a relationship. A relationship starts from the ground up. We still in the mud for a reason. You got to start somewhere so that you could, go brick by brick. We want to build this house together. And I think to your point, Jazz, I think you anybody can have a standard, but also be mindful of your standards to make sure that you also are meeting those same standards that you're giving out. Because I feel like that's a huge miss in today's day and age. I want you to do this, but I don't have to do it. No, 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 no. That's not how we about to eat together. Because at this point, why are you holding me here, but you could do the bare minimum?
And it's all about different relationships though. Jazz, your relationship is going to be different than Dub's, it's going to be different than Al's, it's going to be different than mine. So if we see somebody on there who wants to post, who is funding lifestyles, who is doing whatever, that's their relationship. Once we start to judge our relationship by somebody else's, you don't necessarily have a relationship. You have their relationship.
That's why I think it depends on what you want. You have to find somebody to match what you want. Like I think that too, and if we're talking about standards, if we're talking about shallow standards, right? He has to be 6 feet tall. He has to make six figures. If we're talking about those, I think that the older you get, the more you realize, not saying that those things aren't important, because if I am able to take care of myself in a certain way, I think it's reasonable to want somebody that has a similar lifestyle, right? But I don't think that that should define because you could meet somebody. Let's say you meet somebody I'm tall, so I'm 5'9". If I meet somebody that's my same height, and they have every other qualification that I want in a partner, am I going to count them out because we're the same exact height? No, but I think that that is like a level of immaturity, and that's something that you learn as you get older. What's actually important. So if we're talking about shallow standards, yeah, sometimes people's shallow standards are too high, but the core of who somebody is, I don't think somebody can say that their standards are too high. Like if I say I want a man who loves God, I'm not budging on that. So if that standard's too high, then you got to go. Like that's so I just think that what your standards are and what you want, nobody should tell you that they're too high. If we're talking about like poor standards, but shallow standards, I think that those are things that you should be able to adjust. You should be flexible in that.